A lot of times when we're looking into buying a home, we spend a lot of time researching the preparation phase, what our budget should look like, what's the best financing, how does the housing market look like, etc. But many times what happens is once you're ready to go into it, you get pre-qualified, you start looking at houses, you're writing offers, and then once you're under contract, you realize, holy crap, I don't know what to expect. So today I'm going to give you a very brief roadmap of how it looks like from the day that you get your offer accepted until the closing. Now keep in mind, this is going to vary state to state, so this is a very broad general understanding of what to expect. My expectation for you is for you to get a good idea of what to expect, but please reference these ideas or this timeline with your real estate agent in whatever state you're in, and of course adjust accordingly depending on what you find out in your state. So whether you're in the process or you're preparing, let's get started. Here's the first thing you got to know, okay? When you send an offer to a property, you have to understand this. The offer isn't this just cute little like verbal or an offer up message. Hey bro, I'll offer you $400,000 for your house. When you write an offer on a property, you're sending an executed contract. And the way it works is you're sending this contract signed by you. Usually this is a fully binding legal document. So if you're still hesitant about buying a house and you're signing the contract, this is not a good time for you to have second thoughts once you've sent it. I'm sure once you've signed it and sent it, you can rescind it verbally as long as the seller hasn't signed. But that offer is the actual purchase contract. So it is in your best interest to please review it. If you don't understand it, hire a third-party attorney to review it for you. Maybe have your real estate agent explain it to you. Whatever the case may be, do your due diligence and don't just sign that thinking it's just a plain old offer. Once that is sent to the seller, there's two options here, or three options really. One, the seller can then say, ooh, I like these terms. I'm going to finish ratifying the contract. And now we have a officially binding document saying, hey, we're under contract. The second thing that can happen is it can say, I like this, but I don't agree with these two or three terms. I'm going to send you a counteroffer. And on the counteroffer, they're only going to specify the lines that they disagree with. So for example, the contract might have 600, 700 lines. The counteroffer might say purchase price to be whatever amount. Does the counteroffer change the entire contract? No. The counteroffer only changes the lines that are specified in the counter. So then from that point, you get a counter. You can counter them back. You can accept their counter. You can reject their counter. The dance begins. The third option is the seller can simply just refuse it and say no thanks. A lot of times, depending on the state, they have to sign it. They have to sign it saying they're rejecting it. But I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of times sellers don't even bother freaking smacking your butt on the way out the door. They just never respond. Sometimes, sorry, not just sellers, but listing agents. So it sucks, but really, if you can be a butthole about it and be like, hey man, I need that signed rejected contract from you and make the listing agent's life a living heck. There's a little tip for you. Once that seller and you have officially agreed on terms, you're officially under contract. And this is a glorious moment because if it was the property brothers, you'll think, oh yeah, I get the keys tomorrow and I move in. No, this is where the escrow period begins. And the escrow period really lasts about 30 to 45 days, maybe even 60 days, depending on your state. Honestly, in my experience, it's usually about 30 to 40 days. But please verify this. Now here is where we're going to have our glorious timeline. And this beginning is marked by the contract being ratified. Normally, this is where you have to deposit something called an earnest deposit or earnest money. An earnest deposit is essentially the funds that you're applying to secure the contract to show that seller that you're serious. Now here's the thing that's important. Whatever you agreed on the earnest deposit, you initially agreed on the original contract. This is important because if you ever cancel for a reason that's not valid during the escrow period, you could technically lose that money. So it's really important when you're looking over the contract initially, when you're signing it, is have your agent or whoever's reviewing your contract identify what are the chances that you have to cancel safely and keep your earnest deposit. If you know these, then you know what are your outs during the contract. And depending on your state, some states are very buyer friendly, some are more seller friendly. Whatever the case is, you really want to identify that early on. Once you are officially under contract, this is our inspection period. The inspection period is very important because this is where a lot of times really the only opportunity you have to back out safely out of the contract. Now, please, once again, verify this with your state. But here, at least in Arizona, the inspection period is golden because it is your opportunity to review and inspect anything about the house. Of course, you hire a home inspector, you hire a contractor, you hire whoever you can hire your Uncle Joey to go check out the pipes. Whatever it is that you want inspected, get it done during these. Usually it's 10 days in Arizona, but it depends on what the contract says for your area. Sometimes agents like to change that on you, so make sure to verify however many days it are. Sorry, my language isn't good today. But additional things you should inspect: communities, your schools, sexual offenders in the area, history of repairs, history of like in Arizona, termites are an issue. Like, you can find all this stuff online. Really do your due diligence here, because really during the inspection period, you have the ability to back out as long as you find a valid reason. Now, technically, can you make up a valid reason? I mean, I guess you can, but really, if you are going to cancel, make sure you actually do find a reason that you don't like the house anymore. And most of the time, you'll be okay. The inspection is absolutely crucial because really, this is the only time that you can actually cancel and retain your earnest deposit. You can actually hold on to it and keep it as long as you have, like I said, a valid reason. Now, during this inspection period, there's also some other crucial things happening. Like, you should be receiving the disclosures from the seller. Now, here in Arizona, we get a standardized form of like 9 or 8 pages of questions where the seller just discloses everything they know about the property: repairs, damages, anything they know. And really, this form is supposed to protect them. They're supposed to be as honest as possible, because if they forget to disclose something that's of material latent defect, editor, put the definition of that up here. There you go. They could get sued after. So it's really in best interest to be very, very detailed about this. In Arizona, we also receive send out the insurance claims history. So we have the last 5 years of insurance claims. But please, this is one thing to research. What are the disclosure papers or disclosures that you will be receiving within the first 5 or 10 questions? Really, these are questions you should be asking a real estate agent when you're interviewing them. So good things to know. During this 10-day or whatever first third of the contract, you're also going to be starting the loan process with the lender. I know, right? It's scary. You didn't actually start your actual loan. You just did a pre-qualification initially. So the first, third as well, it's going to be your official loan application. But if you did what I usually tell people to do with the whole, shopping around your lender and going, hey, can I get the best interest rate? Where you get 3 or 4 lenders lined up and you haven't made a decision. And once you get the house under contract, spend the first day or two sending the contract to all the lenders so they can fight for your business. You want to make sure to do that within the first 1 or 2 days, because then they can start the actual loan disclosures, get everything going. This is usually where you actually get a better idea of what your interest rate is, your fees are, and they usually order the appraisal during the first third as well. So that's going to be probably good $400 to $800 that they're going to be charging you. By the way, I forgot to mention, the inspection, you should expect it to be like $400 to $800 as well. They have gone up. I remember back in the day, they used to be $200. Now they're $400 to $800. Really, there's a lot of companies out there. Some people some are TikTok famous and they love to call out, "Oh, this is crap." Some of them are just these little old men that go, "Hey, this is what's wrong with the house." Whatever option. Some have like the super 3D technology where they can find moisture behind walls. Whatever you choose, do your due diligence. Make sure that you're going with someone that you think will do a good job for you. But more importantly, has insurances and warranties to protect any mistakes that they might make as well. Cool. So those first 10-ish days covers the inspection period, or we'll call it the disclosure period. Whatever your state calls it, please verify it. But really, it's your time to inspect the house, to verify that you actually like the house and it's in good shape, and you're getting the disclosures from the seller. This initial section ends when you decide to send whatever negotiation form is needed for repairs, right? So when you're doing the inspection, you might find a bunch of things you don't like about the house. Whatever that is, I'll leave that with you and your agent to discuss. But you find a bunch of things that are wrong with the house. You go over everything with your agent and you write it down in a paper. And at this point, you have 2 options. You can say, "This is too much, I want to cancel." You get your deposit, you go back, verify that that's what happens in your state. Or you send a basically repair request. Now, this could be called there's so many names for this form. But whatever it is called, you send it. Once that form is sent, this usually ends your inspection period. Now, verify the details here. Is like, I know here in Arizona, once you send that form, they have 5 days to respond. Then they send you a response, and then you have 5 days to respond. And here's the crazy part. You don't get another chance to respond. They get to respond to you, and you can accept or reject their response, which is terrible. I know, terrifying. But you really, really want to make sure that you understand what that process looks like, because it might prevent you from making a dumb mistake like asking for 100 things in the inspection, them coming back and saying, hey, we'll do these 3 things. And you're like, crap, items 77 through 79 were really the important ones I really wanted done, but they're only going to do items 1 through 3. Well, then you should have started with that, right? If you knew better about the process. Anyways, once that inspection period is done, usually it is signified by you and the seller come to terms with what you want repaired. After that, then it's the appraisal waiting period, which is like days 10 to 20 around there. Here, you're doing additional things with the lender. You're verifying paperwork. They're sending paperwork, which you've started technically in the beginning, but you're kind of just verifying that. This is usually the period where hopefully if everything is going smoothly, you get a conditional loan approval from your lender. So they basically mean, hey, good job, brah or sis or whatever you are. We approve your loan. However, there are some conditions we need to clear. Hopefully there are minor conditions like, hey, we need an updated pay stub. Hey, we need an updated driver's license because your photo is ugly. I'm just kidding. Whatever. Hopefully they're minor. But usually one of the conditions that they call out is we got to wait for the appraisal to come back. If you're in this case, perfect. You're great. Sometimes you don't get that conditional approval until after, whatever the case is, that's fine. But if you're getting that conditional approval before the appraisal gets there, good job. You're in a good role. Now, why this period is important, because this is when the dreadful appraisal shows up. Now, if you're cash, usually that first third is that's really all you have to do, and then you move on. But during this time, while you're waiting for the appraisal, it's a good chance to research inspection companies, verify. You can try to find the best deal. I mean, when you call these inspection companies, make sure to have a copy of your VIN of your cars. You can try to shop a multi-policy, so you can get a multi-policy discount with these insurance companies. Call all of them, call a broker, whatever it is. Do your due diligence. Now, if you are dealing with a house that you're afraid might not be insurable, you should probably move this step to the beginning, because you want to verify that while you can still cancel. It would suck for you to wait till here and then say, oh, you can't even get insurance on your house. Situations like this might be a house that's in really bad shape. I once had a house that had 4 layers of shingles, and the inspection, like, terrible. The insurance guy went out there and like, yeah, we can't insure this property. It has 4 layers of shingles. And it was a huge issue. Luckily, we got a new roof. We got a new AC for them too, because we found that out in the inspection. It was like one of my golden eggs that happen like once every year, where we got everything done for the buyer. It's rare, but when it happens, it's great. You know, what's crazy is whenever I go above and beyond and I get somebody a brand new roof and brand new AC, they're the ones that are still grumpy at the end of the transaction. It's perspective, right? Everyone always, if they get the world, then they're like, well, how come I don't get 2 worlds? Anyways, I digress. So when you get the appraisal, this is the big moment, because there's a few things that can happen. And this is where you want to make sure you know what your appraisal contingency looks like in your state. Now, normally this is in the contract, but if you don't know what you're signing, this is a good question to ask your real estate agent. What happens if the appraisal comes in low? Let me give you an example of what happens here in Arizona. If the contract is left as is, this is how it works in Arizona. The appraisal contingency states, if the house does not appraise at the value that you offered, the buyer and the seller have 5 days to renegotiate terms. If they cannot come to terms, the buyer can send a cancellation and get a full refund of their earnest deposit. That's right. So even though the house is listed at $480,000, the buyer offered $500,000, and they truly thought it was worth $500,000. The appraiser comes back and says, bro, this house is only worth $470,000. The buyer and seller have to renegotiate. And if the seller's like, bro, no, I want $500,000, and this buyer's like, well, I can't give you $500,000. The loan is only going to be for $470,000. I can't come up with $30,000. Is there another number that works? And they go back and forth, and you go, no, well, as long as you cancel before the 5 days, the buyer cancels and get the deposit back. And it's just what's very terrifying for sellers here in Arizona, because like everything can be going smoothly and this can happen and completely mess it up. Now, that's an example of Arizona. Verify with your state what happens and how that timeline looks like. But whatever that is, that's the appraisal scenario. After the appraisal situation, once that's clear, hopefully the lender, that's all they need to submit for final approval. The last third, or the last 5 to 10 days of the contract, is hopefully your inspection is done, your appraisal is done, and you're just kind of wrapping things up. You're getting the final loan approval from the lender, you're submitting final documents, the seller's hopefully getting those repairs done, you're scheduling your final walkthrough, and once they get that final approval on the loan, that's when the whoever is running the title company, or here in Arizona we call it an title company. It could be called an escrow company. I know some states you guys like to use lawyers. Out of whatever the situation is with your state, that's when they're scheduling the final signing once they get the final approval. And you usually like to do your walkthrough beforehand to make sure the house is actually in good shape. Now, depending on your state, most of the time this is true. The house has to be in a very, very similar shape to the way it was when you first saw it. Now, some states vary. Here in Arizona, the house has to be in what's called a broom swept condition, meaning that it is decently clean, but not like amazingly like smudge free and perfect, right? Double check this. Maybe your state is one of those states that says, no, this house needs to be pristine and clean. When you do your final walkthrough, you're verifying to make sure that there's no new damages to the property. Make sure that the repairs that they said were going to get done are done, which, by the way, if they're pretty serious repairs, I wouldn't just count on your eyeballs. I would probably schedule a re-inspection from the original inspection company, like probably right after you negotiate the inspection. Call them and say, hey, bro, we're going to be closing on this day. Can you come like a few days before closing to re-inspect it to verify that they did the repairs? This is going to cost you a little extra money, but that extra assurance is really great, knowing that they got done and they got done right. Anyways, final walkthrough's happening, and then at that point they schedule the signing. Now, this is where it varies greatly from state to state. I know I've been saying that a lot this video, but literally you can drink a shot every time I say in this video. You'll probably be pretty drunk at the end of it, but literally this is serious. Some states are like table funding state, where you go to a table, you go with a briefcase, the seller goes there, you shake hands, they exchange keys and briefcase, you drink champagne, you get everything. Some states are like my state, where everything's done very, really informally, where you go sign, the seller goes signs at a different time and place. Once everyone's signed, money's been exchanged, you have to wait a day for the county to say, hey, you're good to go. And then you get a call from your agent saying, hey, congrats, you're a homeowner. You're just like, what? I'm just here like drinking my Starbucks. No, yeah, literally, just congratulations, it just happened. You didn't feel that massive debt just hit your credit. So it really changes. This is totally different. I'm going to leave this last few days of closing for you to research on your own how that happens. But either way, just some tips. Make sure to schedule your walkthrough with enough time. Make sure to get multiple eyes on the repairs that are done. To just don't take the seller's word for it. Please make sure to get the invoices for any repairs that they did and verify they're legit. Call the company and say, hey, are you a real company? Did you do these repairs for this house? Because sellers be lying sometimes. They be saying, hey, this so-and-so company did, and it turns out it's just a buddy of them. They said, oh yeah, they just wanted an invoice. I didn't do any of that work. I just gave them an invoice. So please verify all this information. And basically, that's how the escrow process works. I probably left some stuff out, so if you have any questions, leave it in a comment below. And if you're a client of mine and you watch this, great. If you're a potential out there looking for a real estate agent, I do have a great agent referral program. The link's in the description. Go check it out. It's pretty awesome. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys. So hopefully that answers any questions you might have or relieves some anxiety. Hopefully it didn't give you more anxiety, because I know when I'm researching stuff, my anxiety just starts kicking off like crazy. So anyways, thank you guys. Appreciate you. See you on the next one.